We have the Intel 270K in hand. Really excited to share this with you, FanBam, as this is the new processor that is dropped by Intel. It's supposed to be one hell of a monster, especially up against something like the 9800X3D, maybe the 9850X3D, and even the upcoming 9950X3D too. So when this PC builds all together, we will certainly run some tests to see exactly how well this holds up. Now, if you're curious about these specifications, it has 24 cores and 24 threads. Now, it does not have hyper-threading. It does not need to use SMTs, which are actually a good thing. This is more of an advantage, especially for those who are PC gamers. So if you are into PC gaming and also in true media creation, or if you're more of a content creator, this might actually be a great processor option for you. Now, when it comes to standard clocks, it's at 3.7 gigahertz, very similar up against the 285K. 285K also does have up to 24 cores and also has 24 cores and 24 threads. Most importantly, when it comes to the boost clocks, this has 5.5 gigahertz compared to 5.7 gigahertz. So it's about 200 megahertz slower specification-wise compared to the 285K. Everything else that will be in this upcoming build, Lian, I know this one's a random one, guys. EG1000G. Mixing up my words here, just getting a little bit too excited, especially that we have this PC build pretty much coming all together. Now, this is a gold rated power supply, great for up to 90% power efficiency, and is based on a single rail system, which is obviously going to work really well with the Lian 217 Lancool case, which is the INF. The infinity mirrors almost looks like a boombox, as some may say. Thanks to ADATA for sending PC hardware, which is going to be the PCI Express 5 XPG Mars 980. This has incredible speeds up to 13,000 to 14,000 megabytes per second. So this is going to be a great addition, especially if you're trying to use it for, say, PC gaming. But again, you don't need those extreme speeds. This is great for transfer rates. You can always go PCI Express 4 if this is a bit costly, as we do know with the PC hardware side. Now, they did also provide us, again, thanks to ADATA, they sent us this wonderful kit, which is 6,000 megahertz of 32 gigabytes of CL38s, which will be combined with Intel's 270K. Now, you're probably curious to see how well that's going to combine, especially on a PC today. Of course, as you know, anything under CL38 would be pretty much magical to get, especially because of how hard it is to get RAM and how expensive it is. But luckily, it is slowly dropping because, I mean, yeah, going back on the SSD front, we've seen SSDs get expensive as $400 for 1 terabyte, which is insane. Now with the CPU cooler here, we do have Lian's AIO. We ended up going with the HydroShift 2, which is going to be a great addition. It's going to be pretty much a Gigabyte and Lian build put together with some XPG love on it. And we also got the Z890. You guys might be actually familiar with this, especially for those who are part of the channel, knows exactly how long it's been in the waiting. I got this thing backwards. The Z890 AORUS Master. This monster, one of the best Gigabyte motherboards you can get when it comes to Intel's system here. Of course, the favorite, you have to have a GPU when it comes to your PC. This is pretty much the main ingredient to make your PC into a true gaming rig or the content creation rig that you would want. And thanks to Gigabyte, they sent us this wonderful RTX. That was a little bit hard to turn around, guys. The RTX 5070 Ti. Now, this is going to be great, especially for those who are looking to have top-notch performance when it comes to your PC without spending $3,000 or $4,000 on a GPU. You always are welcome to spend that type of money if you'd like, but not many people have $3,000 or $4,000 just laying around. Now, luckily, you can get a GPU like this at the minimum of $1,000 to $1,100. Now, of course, if you can't afford something like this, they do have other great options. You can even go, again, 9070 XT. Let's go ahead, and what we're going to do first is we're going to open up the motherboard. So, we're gonna set everything here to the side because we gotta give us a little bit of room without having so many PC hardware just laying all over the place. These I'm gonna keep out because these are also what I like to install while the motherboard is out the case. Now, of course, if you have something that is more of a fan CPU cooler, you can also feel free to install it, as it's a lot easier to install out of the case here. We're almost to that point to where you can build a PC toolless. Well, unfortunately, that is not the case. Thanks to, well, I can't really thank iFix. I actually bought the kit myself, but I really thank iFixit for making this kit because it definitely makes it a lot easier for those who like to build PCs. I would say go with the iFixit kit if you can. Of course, there are other options. You can go with the standard screwdriver if it's much easier and much more affordable. You can buy it as low as $2 or $3 at a Home Depot or even at Lowe's, depending on what you have around you, or even at a tech store. But if you have a little bit more money to spare, get an iFixit kit. Makes it so much easier. Sometimes when you get some of these larger, wider PC models, this doesn't quite reach. So it's nice to have a longer driver when it comes to installing into your PC. We're gonna open this wonderful Gigabyte Z890 AORUS Master, as it's been dying to get inside of a PC build, and deservingly so. Now, we're gonna take this wonderful beast out. I'm so glad we decided to keep it, to be honest. I almost ended up getting rid of it because I thought, let's just do another AMD build, but I feel not everybody wants to continuously see AMD, especially for you Intel lovers out there, because I know you guys are out there. We all are hoping that Intel certainly does make a comeback, especially for these wonderful prices. Again, for the Intel 270K, you can actually get it as low as $320 currently. Now, when they originally debuted, they actually had it for $300, but then it went up as high as $350 when it first released because of allegedly there's a shortage of CPUs as well. But if you do want to get your hands on it, they do have it available on Newegg, which I will have the links right down in the description box down below. Let's go and I'll show you what's inside. Of course, you have the wonderful optional coolers that they have, which is pretty dope. They also have RGB extenders plus SATA ports, and there's actually a RAM cooler if you want to throw that on, especially if you're overclocking RAM here. All right, so I'm gonna flip this closed, and then we're gonna sit the motherboard right on top of this. Now let's get this out the... don't you love the sound of the crunchiness of new products here? And man, just look how massive that heatsink is. So we got the 270K. Take a look at that beautiful piece of wonderful, glorious hardware, and we will install it right into this wonderful AORUS Z890 Master. So all you have to do is push down on this hook here. And now all we have to do is lift up this latch. You want to follow that arrow. It's actually right on the lid, they even have it. And right in that corner, if you look, you'll see like a little gold arrow. And you want to follow that. Now take a look at these glorious pins. Put the arrow in. There we go. Now we're nice and lined up. Make sure the holes are pretty much in the notches. And then you're just going to close the lid just like this. And just push that retaining spring down. And there you go. Now it is installed. Here is XPG's Mars 980, a great option to go with if you want to install a beautiful SSD. And they even give you a wonderful plate onto the top if you wanted to give it a more premium feel. It gives it a nice matte look. Now it is optional if you're installing it on a PC. You don't absolutely have to install this on there, but of course, if you want to make it look better, you can. But instead, we're going to install it without the plate, as I feel it's unnecessary, as we prefer better thermals. You gotta take the film off of this thermal pad. Just make sure you don't peel up the thermal pad itself, because that's what I just did. Whew. That was a bit of work in itself. And the one thing I like to try to avoid is like my finger oils going on it. locked right in. We take this film off of here, line them up with the notches. Perfect. The NVMe is now installed. Now, what we gotta do is install the RAM. We have wonderful XPGs, Lancer Blade 6000 megahertz of CL38. We have a total of 32 gigabytes here. Now we got like about something that is worth probably about $500 here. And supposedly RAM is supposed to go up again in pricing, but let's hope that's not true, as it's been dropping. Man, this RAM kit's actually really nice. I really love the look of it. The open area is where you want to install the RAM. That's one. There we go, two. Now we got that in there. Now we have that all put together. We got the processor, we have the SSD, and we have the RAM installed. So we're gonna sit this on the side because we're gonna have to install the backplate for this motherboard. As we take out Lian's HydroShift 2, a wonderful new AIO by Lian. They've been around for a really, really long time. And when it comes to reliable AIOs, this is certainly one of those options to go to. And it actually has a 480 by 480 display that goes even up to 60 Hertz, up to 500 nits, which is quite beautiful for a AIO. I'm going to rip this open, show you what is inside. Now they do give you options when you install the fans on this AIO. Now, with this AIO, you have the option of going wired, even wireless. When it comes to packing, Lian is top notch. You never have to worry about your parts really coming in damaged. They have a wonderful 5 to 6 year warranty when it comes to their AIOs. Take a look at that. They have Intel socket, they have accessory, and they also have AMD sockets. Now, when it comes to the actual wiring, you do have different options. They'll give you pretty much a guide on how to do it. Of course, you get the wonderful thank you card from Lian, and they even give you a nice little tool. Now, a lot of these AIOs, typically they will come with a little nice size tool where you can take advantage of if you need to use it. And most importantly, you have the radiator along with the fans. It's now a bit more slimmer. That's what the S stands for. So that way it's much easier to install it into your PC. And what we will do is we will pull out the Intel socket, as this is what we're going to need to take advantage of to install it into the motherboard. Now, inside the Intel socket, you're going to have the bracket. This will end up sitting through the motherboard, and this will actually sit up onto the top, as this will actually act as the brackets where you will end up sitting your plates. So as we go ahead and attempt to install this bracket for Lian, which is going to look like something like this, make sure to peel out the film, and once you do so, you just install it directly through the back of the board, kind of just like this, to give you guys a look. There you go. And it's going to be adhesive that actually sits back here. And now we're going to flip it back over. As we sit the bracket on here, it's going to have a certain direction it has to go. For example, pointing at the CPU direction. So this has to sit directly here. Remember that cool tool that Lian gives you? You're going to take advantage of that. You're going to put the fatter side up, because that will allow that tool to kind of fit in there. If you look onto the top of it, it's going to sit just like this as we start installing. Now, you don't want to go too crazy when you tighten these down. All we have to do now is we're going to move this out of place, as we're pretty much ready to install this motherboard into the actual PC case. Ugh. Now time to take it out of this plastic. You can just easily pop it open. Usually when it comes to building PCs, I usually like to strip it completely. That way you have it to the bare minimum. It makes it much more easier to move around as well. I just love how this case is. I mean, just look, it's just so much room. So family guys, all I gotta do is just get this out the way. We're going to lay the PC case onto its side.
Make sure to line up your IO plate with the back of your chassis, and once you do, it should pretty much fit in center, and your motherboard should sit on top of the ATX mounts.
Now, a lot of these cases, they'll have the threads pretty much pre-installed, and when they're pre-installed, then you can just install the 9 ATX screws that are required to install the motherboard. It should look something like this when installing the proper screws for the motherboard here. And I can certainly tell you, no matter how often you build PCs, you still get pretty nervous about it. There we go. So now that's all completely installed. Here we have the Lian EG1000G, which is a gold rated power supply. We are going to open this up first instead, and we will install the cables first on this PC. Get my trusty little knife here. Now this is quite a interesting power supply by Lian, as it's going to be uniquely shaped. Let's get that open here. They have a wiring diagram if you are interested in taking a look on how to do so. So they do provide that if you need guidance on how to hook up your wiring on your PC. The actual wires when it comes to the power supply here, nice, decent sized pouch. I definitely like it better than the Velcro pouches because they tend to end up not sticking very well. For this specifically, I want to install, of course, you got the 12-volt high power ports. Love the quality and the feels of the cables as it's much more flexible compared to a ordinary, like for example, Corsair cables or Thermaltake cables are a bit more stiff. These are a bit more similar to like how it is when it comes to Seasonic. Of course, this is going to be a pain to open without a knife. I'm not going to rip it up open like a cereal box. All this out the plastic because obviously we don't need the plastic here. So most importantly, we will need the CPU cables here. Now we just got to install some of the power supply cables such as the CPU ATX cables just to make it so much more easier once we install the AIO. Otherwise, it can get in the way. And this is exactly what we need here for the CPU. So now we got that together onto the ATX cable. Now it's time for us to install the AIO for this PC. So what I'll do is temporarily pull all the wires here because this is eventually where the PSU is gonna go. And we'll worry about the sorting later as we're going to throw this onto its side. Now that we are down to the nitty and gritty, you want to install the wonderful HydroShift 2 LCDS right here. And I'm gonna show you what they package inside. A little bit more of what they do offer here is that, of course, you get this wonderful, large, massive radiator that it comes with. And the reason why it comes in such a large pack is because all the fans are practically pre-installed on this AIO here. And take a look at this beast right here, carefully packed by Lian. All we have to do is hook it up properly up here onto the top to properly dissipate the heat out of this PC. If we're curious about the ARGBs, it's not too vibrant, it's not too crazy, it's not on the actual fans, but just on the shroud. And take a look at that. I love how they package that carefully, so if you don't want to have too much of a crazy loop, you don't have to be really careful in the first place. We're just fitting it inside here. Ah, it's one of these. Okay. There's always something to run into, I'll tell you that for sure. It'll fit. Just gotta make sure that film stays on here. Just like that. There we go. That's what we want. And we're going to loop this through, take out all these wires here, as this is going to actually end up on to the power supply of Lian because of its control module that they contain here, which again, this is a USB. So we're just gonna route this through pretty carefully here. You're gonna wanna make sure to open up the accessory pack, which looks something a little bit like this here. And inside of here will contain all your screws necessary to install this AIO. Plus a couple other things that will come in handy, such as thermal paste if you don't have any, which we will use our own. I always recommend to have a handy magnetic plate in the way, so that way you can easily put any of the screws that are required right there. See how easy that is? Nothing rolling off the table, and now easy enough to actually work on. So I'm gonna put that actually up here on the top and then start doing the install. Now we have that installed. It's time for the cooler to sit on top of the CPU. But right now we're gonna take off this cover that Lian does provide on its case, because in order for a smooth installation, you have to have this off. So it just simply unplugs just like this. And you wanna make sure to line up your plate, make sure that it's capable. It'll be a little tricky because it's gonna wanna pull naturally. So just make sure it lines up well. Now all we have to do is put the thermal paste on and get this pretty much set, which right now I chose to use Thermal Grizzly's Cryonuts, which is this right here. And now we're gonna switch over to the CPU and I'll show you exactly how I put it on. Now there's two ways you can do this. Preferably, you can put a dot or you can put an X. So I'm gonna put an X. And the way this cooler is, I would suggest using a spatula. So what you need to do, you're gonna use this spatula, you're gonna spread it just like this. It might be a bit much, but let's hope we can get this nice and cleaned up here. Make sure to remember to remove the film before installing. Should have a nice clean plate. Now, all we have to do is install this cooler on here. Usually I'll sit it onto the top of the angle here because it'll sit in on Intel. We're gonna slightly put that on here. Before we start contacting, I wanna make sure I get a nice even contact surface, so I get two different angles here. Spread instead of having the AIO pulling in one direction. Now we have that AIO completely installed. Now all we have to do is connect this LCD cover, and you see just match up these hoses and that connector. So easily just flip it around, and all you have to do is now connect the screen on, and it should be pretty much good to go. So all we got to do is hook up the CPU optional fan and the actual fan. So I'm gonna make sure to have these connected. Perfect. Now that is completely installed. So what I like to do is I'm going to end up pulling through not the power supply cables first, but the actual case wires. This is what you need to connect your front panel port with. This powers on your PC. Now that will connect directly up here into the front of the motherboard. It's like that. Now the USB 3 goes right here to the front. This is USB-C. We're gonna have that connected right here. Of course, the HD audio, which is going to go in this end. So now we're going to install the power supply. Since we have everything pretty much intact up here on the top, we're pretty much clear. So in order to do so, we have to actually remove this drive here. And if you look under it, there's going to be a thumb screw that's underneath here. So that way we can make some headway for the power supply when that gets installed here. All you have to do is really pull this lever. That drive bay is free. Going to install the Edge power supply, which looks just like this. And take a look how unique that is. PC look really clean. Wait till you see how this looks. Really excited to show you the capabilities of the EG1000G. This case gives you the ability to be able to actually install it the fan up. As you're probably looking at it, like this is different. I've never seen anything like this, right? So we're gonna pull this back here, which is the power cable. Let's actually hook this up since it's in the far corner. We don't want that to get into the way. So it's gonna be this 12-volt high power port because this is where your main graphics is going to end up anyway. Make sure it's all the way in. I get so paranoid, I over push it in. And then we're gonna go ATX cable here. And what this is going to be part of the hub. So make sure you take full advantage of this. All you have to do, don't forget to take off this little black piece right here. You're gonna plug that in, and now we're pretty much good to go here. We're gonna have a fan connection here. Another fan connection here. USB will plug into here. As down here, you're gonna have some special connectors. They're just USB extension because one's motherboard signal and the other one is going to be fan control. So that's going to have to be hooked up directly to the actual motherboard itself. That is one. Perfect. And of course, now we gotta plug in our CPU, which is gonna be based up here. I know this probably looks like an insane mess. Actually, let's see. We'll put it out to the side here just to make it a bit easier. No need to make it more complicated than you have to. Make sure they're fully seated. That's in. That is also in. We just have one more connection to deal with. Now we're gonna slide that back inside. Perfect. So now we're just going to hook these wires, which is the USB and fan that connects directly to this power supply through the front up here. As we flip this around, this hooks directly to your motherboard. Into the system fan. This will hook up directly to the USB. Install this power supply here. We're gonna put this on, which probably never quite seen before and find quite interesting. So now, before we install the GPU, I just want to make sure to organize the wires in the back just to make everything a bit easier. Now that's complete. Now we got pretty much everything set to how we want it. Now, of course, you can make it look nicer and kind of have the finishing wraps. Now we should be all set to put the GPU in. We're gonna take this off here. GPU officially installed. Now we install the famous 12-volt high power port, make sure it's completely in. We hope for a very secure connection because we don't want this to burn up. Now, I forgot, I accidentally took one extra out, so I'm gonna reinstall that. So I'm just gonna put this back in there, which is the plate. Then what's interesting about this case here is that if you look under here, there where you'll see an adjustment where we're going to actually bring that up so that way it's holding the card properly. It's going to be just like a thumb screw that's right behind it. So you'll see this moving, you can actually adjust this up, make sure it's up on the GPU and tighten it. Now we're gonna put this case all together. I'm gonna start with the back side, obviously, because it's shielded, it's metal. And we got this organized exactly how we would like it. Thanks for my wonderful wife for being part of this project. We'll put that right here. Gotta put this on first here, guys. Oh. Guess I can't do it. So it looks like I'm gonna have to route that wire through the other direction. Gotta certainly flip this around. Hear that nice click? Okay. So unfortunately it can be cleaned like that underneath, but that's certainly the best we can get it. Now we got that away from the shrouds and fan as it's lifted. Now we can close it. And finally, the wonderful glass can go on. And see if this powers up. Let's see if we get lights out of curiosity. Hopefully everything went well here. So now we're gonna see if it actually starts up here. We're gonna turn on the actual supply, and you can see inside closely we have pretty much a red light inside of this motherboard, which is a good thing. So now what we're gonna have to do is a BIOS flashback. Now make sure that you get something like this. Make sure it contains the BIOS flashback, especially if you have a Z890 prior to the Arrow Lake refresh, meaning before 250K and the 270K plus. This way you can ensure the PC will start up, otherwise it won't boot. You'll see this where it says BIOS USB 3.2. That's exactly what we need. We're gonna plug that in there. And now you're gonna hold that Q flash plus button until it starts blinking.
Once it starts blinking, just know that it's starting to flash the BIOS and don't touch it.
Once it finishes flashing, then you know the BIOS is fully up to date.
Looks like it's ready to go.
So we have a successful boot here. We have the correct frequency. It recognizes both DDR5. We're going to set this over to XMP since we are on a Intel processor. Of course, we could take advantage of the Intel 200S boost. So you're going to need your Windows USB. Make sure to plug that in so you can install the OS. So to get to the boot menu, just hit F12 if your Windows wasn't just installed quite yet. Just let the PC reboot. And we're gonna go down to this one right here, which will have Windows in it. We're gonna go ahead and install Windows onto this wonderful PC. Windows 11 Pro, unallocated space, and we will install. Hopefully you guys certainly enjoyed this PC build. Wait till we get some benchmarks and run some real tests to see what type of numbers that we'll get. Thanks so much for watching. This is Chris Mizo, signing out.